Hey Janis, just thought I'd give you a bit of an update of what's gone on since we last spoke. So obviously the last we spoke we were on a Miro board for the various different clustering, and what I've done is I've transposed that across now to the app. So you've got the interviewees over here on the left, and then you've got the groups with the statements here. So when I used to have someone else to do it, now I had to learn to do it myself. Kieran, Nikki and Wes in there. So this is just a replica of the Miro board. And then what we do is we go over to the coding matrix here, and what that does is pull up the interviewees down here, so each interviewee down the left hand side, and per interviewee and per statement, when I used to have someone else to do it, but now actually I'll just filter that out so we can only see that. What you can see here is I'm marking this as yes or no. So by default, all of the ones that were not in there are marked as maybe. And so I've gone through manually and thought this through and said, okay, was this true or was this not true? One thing that I noticed from that was as we were going through with our original groupings, there was a lot of ambiguity. So, the sort of inspiration piece, a few others about the process. When I started to step through it, so like I kind of put this, all right, it's not going to let me open that up because I've already generated the clusters. But if I step through this one by one, I'd sit and think, well, actually, when I feel the power of a visual idea or something like that, I'm like, that's true for everybody. And so that's not very useful to us for the coding purposes. And so I have changed this slightly. Let's have a look. Power, there we are. Let's go for that one. So I've made that one. I've seen the power of visual ideas for communication firsthand. So rather than just, I believe in the power of visual communication, which everybody did, otherwise they wouldn't be on the course at all, we pulled this back to those people who expressly said, I've seen this work, I've seen it, that somebody else have impact with this, or maybe I've done it myself, and therefore this is important to me. Okay, so that's that. What that then led me to do is I took it over to this clustering piece here, where we can break these into 3, 4 or 5 groups. We'll go through this later today. What I discovered as I was doing that is that there was no way we could get Wes and Wes2 wouldn't ever leave the same cluster, and Frederick 2 wouldn't either. So as a result, I've taken both of their second stories out of this because actually it's just noise. It's not going to help us in this space. I wanted to make sure that we could filter this properly. And in order to do this on the coding matrix, you can see up here, I've got all of these other sort of stories. So this was Alex's. And now I'm just going in, and luckily we've got Gemini these days. Was this important to this interviewee? So I can learn the tools needed to use, blah, blah, blah. Some of the results you get from AI are pretty poor. I mean, I've gone across this like literally every single one of these tabs, through every single coding piece, and I've gone back to here to try and make sure that I've got the exact right wording. So, we got it to probably 90% in the Miro board. I believe this takes it to 100% now, but you've got access to this, so dive in, have a look, let me know if you think that I've gotten something wrong. We can always talk about it later. What we'll be doing next, once the coding's done, the clustering just uses this particular algorithm here. So there's a bit about ward clustering here. It's really just going through and taking 12 individuals, and it's saying who's most similar and who's most dissimilar. And so what we get from that next is that when it's set at 3, Wes and Kieran are in their own group. We have all of these in group 2 and all of these in group 3. And what we're doing next is to ask ourselves, does that make sense? Do these 3 different clusters best describe the different behavior that we saw from people purchasing? Or if we break them into 4 groups, Wes and Kieran stay together. Looks like Francesca and Frederick split out into their own. And then we've got Nikki, Knife, Kathy and Eduardo, who are largely doing this for, I think, like a healthy hobby. We've got these people here who are sort of a bit of stop the scroll, bit of education. These are very much lifelong learners, educators over here in cluster 3. So does that make sense? Or if we break it into 5 clusters, what do we have left? We've still got these people together here who are educated. So educators stay together. These are the hobbyists. And now we've got a difference here. Jackie, Aditi and Alex are learning for slightly different reasons for Akil and Mittal and Tammy. Now, I don't know whether 4 or 5 is best, but that's what we'll discuss this afternoon. Hopefully you can see now that there's a strong connection. So in here we've got all of the interviewees we actually talked to. Over in the board you can actually see now the full list of people here, and it's all color coded so you can see it nice and easily. The coding matrix describes, and it's fully coded, so there's no maybe values, there's no ambiguity, and based upon whether they agreed or disagreed, we've then driven them into multiple different clusters. And within those clusters, we can go and have a conversation this afternoon and say which makes sense, so that we can then come across here and detail the jobs and start to move forward to making a design for you to succeed with it. I'll shut up now. We can talk more later. Cheers.